So I know without any shadow of a doubt that I'm going to get hate from people who like the prequels or love the prequels or like the prequels over the sequels and will say, well, you're not a real Star Wars fan, you probably just hate the prequel. Wrong. Wrong. I love all of Star Wars, pretty much. I love Star Wars. I've got this little action figure shrine here that needs to be dusted like ASAP. I've got some of the DVD releases here, and I've got Force Awakens on Blu-ray. That's one of my copies of it. Yes, I did say that right. That's one of my copies. I've got Rebels. Even have some really obscure shit that you probably wouldn't expect to find in a Star Wars collection. I've got Ewoks and droids. I've got the Star Wars movies all on Blu-ray, including a few different copies of the originals. I've got the complete series box set, and I've got the Adi-Wan versions of Star Wars of Episode 4 and 5, and I've got the specialized editions. And when I said obscure, I mean this piece of shit. I burnt it. It's not only just a burnt piece of shit, it's probably the ultimate fan cut of the movie, because I called it the fan edit. Because I cut out all the commercials and gave it some new wipes in Windows Live Movie Maker. Yes, Windows Live Movie Maker is good for restoring the holiday special. Yeah, I've also got a bit of a cold, so there's that. I've also got these figures of Rey and Finn and an action figure of Kylo Ren. I would also say I've got a ton of action figures of prequel characters as well. Well, how do you know you're a fan of the prequels? How do we know you're a fan of the prequels? I mean, we need proof that you're a fan of the prequels. We really need hard evidence that you like the prequel trilogy. There. A cardboard still of Anakin Skywalker. An action figure of Anakin Skywalker. Another action figure of Anakin Skywalker. An action figure of Luke Skywalker from the Attack of the Clones era. I've also got a lot of action figures. So, yeah, I'm a fan of all things Star Wars. Except the holiday special, but I own it because I'm a whack job. Anyway, let's cut to the real video. So, I'm doing a different style of video because my camera's, well, my tripod's broken. Getting a new tripod. Don't feel like doing a webcam video. Just feel like doing an old school audio video. I'd like to consider this a review / analysis and thoughts of Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. I just want to get one thing out of the way. I love this movie. I think it's a great Star Wars movie, a wonderful addition to the franchise, something new and different, and I liked it a lot. I loved a lot of aspects of it. Even some of the slower moments that people like Chris Stuckman complain about. I still found enjoyment out of them. I found Rian Johnson to be a wonderful choice for director. I found the style of this movie a welcome, fresh take on a franchise that has kind of become formulaic and predictable. And that's coming from a guy that loves this series, but I was talking with my mom, okay? And my mom is one of the old school Star Wars fans. And when I mean old school, I'm not talking like I was born after Return of the Jedi. I saw my VHS. No. I'm talking like old school. Like she was a teenager when A New Hope came out, okay? She was there when the Vader twist was something you didn't expect. She was there pretty much. She didn't care for Return of the Jedi There's a video that I'll probably post in another Last Jedi video relating to it, probably just the audio of the conversation I had with my mom, but I do not understand the hate for this movie. Now, if people hate it because it's not the way they thought it was going to go, then I kind of understand it. This is a very different Star Wars movie. It's got a lot of humor. The dark themes are there. Luke is not the same man that he was 30-something years ago, of course. And he basically says to Rey, why do you think I would come to the most remote planet in the galaxy? Like, as a coincidence for someone to find me? No, I came here to die. And it's very hard, and I've got 4 fucking action figures of Luke right here, ironically enough. I've got a New Hope Luke. I've got an Empire Strikes Back figure from 97. A Black Series figure Luke from the... actually, I've got a couple of Luke Skywalker figures here. I got a couple of Empire. And basically, I'm looking at this wall right now, and I'm just... It kind of like is giving me the feeling of the character arc of Luke. It's like, as I'm seeing this, I'm seeing why people might be pissed off, Because they don't want to see a character that they've known for decades, be this beaten down, pathetic husk. But the sad truth is, your heroes may not always be as they're cracked up to be. Even the ones we deify in fiction. And hell, I like the real world parallels that Rian Johnson was able to bring with the character of Luke Skywalker here. How he thought in his own arrogance, his own hubris, that he could train Ben Solo. That he could prevent another Order 66, another Fall of the Jedi. Because he was Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker, the legendary Luke Skywalker, the man that redeemed Darth Vader from the evil Galactic Emperor. The man that brought Anakin Skywalker, the chosen one, back to the light. What I love the most of the handling of Luke is that he himself scoffs and is angry at himself. He hates himself, in a way. He's just living there, rotting away. Just the dialogue and the performance that Hamill gives. This is his best performance as Luke. And I hate to say this, and I know I'm going to get some negative feedback, but if we're going to really look at Luke Skywalker, he is, and I hate to say this, probably the textbook generic example of the hero's journey. And that's not a negative when I say that. That is the intention Lucas was going for. If you watch the original trilogy, that's exactly what he wanted. He was following the formula of one of his mentors, Joseph Campbell. But he also got to look at how you keep this movie fresh. And the stylistic decisions from a directing, from the style, from the editing, the pacing. The movie just worked, and it felt very different. I know I've probably said that, but for a franchise like Star Wars, where you have so many kind of formulaic, established rules within the narrative structure of the franchise, to take it in a bold new direction is going to piss a lot of people off. But again, when I talked to my mom about this, and I'm bringing up my mom because, again, she was born in 1959, saw the original film when she was a teenager. So we talked about what this movie made us feel, and she said, pretty much, she saw Justice League, she saw Thor Ragnarok, and she said, for me, those movies had no soul. Those movies just felt like a generic formula. When she saw this movie, it reminded her of what she loved about Star Wars. And it's something that we as fans may have forgotten. Because we haven't really had a movie since The Empire Strikes Back that really explores the unknown of Star Wars. This movie really dabbles into the unknown territory, not necessarily in the way of who's Snoke and who's let's theorize about Snoke and all this shit. Clearly, Snoke wasn't as big a deal as we were making it up to be. And I hate to say it, if you really thought Snoke was going to have some big revelation, maybe that's your own damn fault. And I know that's a blunt way of saying it, but it's how I freaking feel, man. I think people had this grand vision for what this movie was going to be like. And I also get a feeling you just have a bunch of people, I'm not going to say any names, you know who you are, just hate fucking Disney, okay? And probably don't like the direction it's taking. But I think you're forgetting what made A New Hope and Empire, prior to Return of the Jedi, such a good duology. Now, before Return of the Jedi came out and made it a great trilogy, it was because you were given hints about the Force, right? And new ways to explore the Force. Now, for us as Gen Xers and Millennials, it's hard for us to really wrap our brains around this concept of mystery because we've probably always known that Vader was Luke's dad in some capacity. But for someone who grew up with the movies as they came out, you're going to see a lot of people look down at movies like Return of the Jedi. And I guess what I'm really trying to say is how they handled the Force here. How they experimented with this, the Force. How they broke new ground. And you're probably thinking, well, why haven't they explored this in the TV shows like Clone Wars and Rebels? Because they hadn't thought of it. Rian Johnson and team just thought, you know what? What if the Force could project two people from opposite points in the galaxy, and they were able to communicate telepathically in some sense and sense each other's surroundings? I mean, this concept is breaking tradition of what the Force is. But so is midichlorians. So is all the shit in the prequels in some extent. But that's kind of what makes this movie a brilliant Star Wars movie, is that it harkens back and really tries to give fans a time when we knew nothing. Where we're trying to reset the franchise back to a time where we don't need a million fucking explanations for background characters and shit, whether it's Disney canon or the Legends canon or whatever the fuck, where we're just looking at the unknown when we're saying, fuck it, let's take a risk. A real risk. Not like some... I mean, if you want to be honest, the prequels couldn't take a risk. The prequels were held back by a set formula. They were set by existing events in the original trilogy. They had to follow a certain timeline to line up with the original movies. The sequels, thankfully, don't have that burden. And they can be ballsy. They can be different. They can explore the Force in ways we as fans never thought could be explored. And it's kind of disappointing to see my fellow fans, instead of welcoming that challenge of what the concept of the Force is, what it can do, what extensions of the Force really mean. It's like, it's great. It's like, again, I've got to go back to Luke Skywalker here for a minute. Triple X, because I just fucking love the way Luke was handled in this movie. And plus, I'm gonna get to the part, the part I'm gonna get to. It's just, okay. Alright, hold on, let me think. What was I saying? Alright, the Force, right? Like what Luke said. Rey comes to him and Luke asks, what do you know about the Force? Rey says, oh, it belongs to Jedi. It gives them their powers and can lift rocks and stuff. Luke, I just love the way Luke was written in this. It was just so unexpectedly brilliant when I look at it. Now, some of you might think this is just a betrayal of who Luke Skywalker is. Again, I hate to say it, 30 years will change you. You ask a 60-year-old man if they were the same person they were 30 years ago, they would say, hell no. You know, that's just reality. And maybe people don't like elements of probably real-world shit brought into fantasy. Now, to be fair, Star Wars has always been about real-world stuff in some capacity, whether it be religion or events, and they're trying to squeeze that into the message and morals in the franchise. But we'll go back to what Luke was saying to Rey. Luke basically tells Rey to really feel the Force, feel the darkness, feel the balance, feel the light. Feel it. And when he says the Force does not belong to anyone, he basically says to say the Force belongs to anyone is vanity. It's blasphemy to say the Force only belongs to the Jedi. And it's like, as a Star Wars fan, you don't think about the Jedi in that way. When you think of the Jedi, you think of heroes. You look at the Clone Wars show, the Jedi are overall portrayed as good guys. Except in certain episodes where they're just like, wow, the Jedi Council was run by fucking dickheads. No wonder fucking Anakin turned eventually. And I guess that's what I really liked. Now, one thing that people might complain about is Luke Skywalker would never give in to fear. Luke Skywalker was so set in the Jedi way in Episode 6 that no aspect of fear, of powerlessness, could ever break him. Luke was the hero that we all looked up to and admired. He was the ideal of hope. That's what Luke Skywalker represents. Luke Skywalker represents that. He represents what every man would strive to be. You know, you have Han Solo, who's like the edgy bad boy. And you have Luke Skywalker, the great noble man that always does the right thing. And yet, sometimes we might forget that these characters are humans. These characters are flawed individuals. Even a great man like Luke could fall from grace if he just made one fuck up. One fuck up. And that is how he confronted Ben Solo. How he sensed darkness in Ben. How he felt Snoke already grabbed hold of Ben. And there was no bringing him back. He ignites his lightsaber in the flashback. And there's just... If Hamill does not get nominated for a fucking Oscar, I will be beyond angry that that doesn't happen. Because there's just so much nuance and subtleties, and this performance he gave as Luke is probably his best performance as Luke. It's kind of funny. Like, for Harrison Ford and Han Solo, I would say the same thing for Force Awakens, but this performance as Luke was just even more probably because of the different style it was in. I really felt that The Last Jedi really needed to be a different Star Wars movie. Maybe even radically different. It needed those flashback scenes, and it just... Those flashback scenes, the fact that they were able to show you what was happening. I mean, I've seen fucking montage videos where they do that. And guess what? It works. In those videos, and it worked brilliantly here. But going back to the scene with Luke and Kylo, he's like, I ignited my blade and instinct. I was about to strike him down. And for a moment, I hesitated. And as he turned around, I just saw the eyes of a frightened boy. And it's just, you looked at Luke, and it's like, for me at least, you have an emotion with Luke Skywalker that you never think of. You might feel empathy for Luke. You might see yourself in Luke. But a level of emotion that you never think of when you think of Luke Skywalker is pity. You pity this man, and you see how far he has fallen. And it breaks your heart as a fan. It breaks your heart as a fan of the Star Wars mythos. It breaks your heart as a fan of Luke Skywalker to see someone you have probably grown up with. If you're like me, you've grown up with this character, and to see him just broken, it hurts. To see him act in fear, it hurts. But the scene with Yoda, that scene was just, oh, that touched me so much. Probably because of my own personal failings in real life, but there was a line in that movie, and it really makes you feel that Luke is going to do something now. That it makes you feel that it's not too late to try to do the right thing. It's never too late to try to fix a mistake. And again, that's what Yoda teaches him. It's like he still has one final lesson from the Force. It was just beyond perfect. Plus, I gotta admit, I did like how they filmed Puppet Yoda in this scene. It was just... This is honestly why I don't do these long fucking audio videos, because when I do, I just fucking ramble. And I can't stop myself from rambling. I mean, am I crazy for loving this movie? Am I crazy for saying this will probably be looked at as the best Star Wars movie since Empire Strikes Back? I mean, yes, it does have its pacing issues. It does have its issues, maybe you could say, with the Finn and Rose subplot. But for me, that subplot, while may have felt unnecessary, was still a thrilling sequence of events. Because I cared about Finn. I started to care about Rose. I liked that she was kind of this frantic, nerdy, nervous character. But at her core was also a brave warrior. Not kind of the opposite of Rey, you know? Rey was shy, yes, but Rey was always confident, ready to kick ass. And here you have Rose, who's the opposite. It's a nice compliment, really, to have your main female lead be a badass and have a supporting character being a bit shy and timid, but also leaves you with a don't judge a book by its cover. And I can't not talk about the rest of the movie if I've gone this far. If I've just gone this far. You know, obviously, what's the main plot of the Finn and Rose sequence? It's to get a code that'll allow the resistance to break in so that the First Order won't be able to track them anymore, and they'll be able to make their base. And just the twists and turns throughout that sequence was fun to watch. I liked the casino plane. It kind of reminded me of something out of the prequel trilogy, and I did like the world and the galaxy established within the prequels, because it's a really gorgeous universe. Like, especially with Coruscant, it's got that kind of seedy New York underbelly side, or, you know, bad part of Philly. You know, it's really got that nice, interesting vibe about it. And that's what I liked about seeing the casino bit. It really showed you, gave you a visual, maybe hard-hitting visual symbolism of rich and poor, of the economic inequality that the galaxy has been going through, with when you have these warmongers profiting off the weak and the downtrodden, and the rebellion fights against that. That's why Rose shows the little kid the symbol that we're here to help. The rebellion is always here to help the weak and the downtrodden. And it's just Benicio del Toro's character, while he's a coder, and he shows Finn the weapons dealer, how he's training with both the rebellion and the First Order. It's weird to think that, but I guess the main meaning of this movie is it's not necessarily balance between the light and the dark. It's shades of gray. But rather than having an evil motherfucker, grand evil motherfucker like Palpatine in the prequels, just puppet master, you didn't have that in this one. You had real shades of gray, you know, with Luke, especially in this movie, was a shades of gray character. Granted, he wasn't this grand, powerful badass, but maybe that's just something reserved for fan fiction, if I'm going to be blunt. And I know people are going to dislike this. I know you're going to dislike this fucking video. But, okay, a great example I can think of a fan fiction, right, of The Last Jedi. The rebellion's getting its ass kicked. The Death Star battery ram is about to destroy the rebellion's base, right? Destroy their shield. All hope is lost. The Millennium Falcon comes in to kick ass and help out. The First Order's trying and trying and trying, you know, to take out the Millennium Falcon. And then suddenly an X-Wing comes by. And then you see dun 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 dun. You see Luke Skywalker in his Jedi robe and his helmet, and he's just shooting motherfuckers left and right. Doesn't that sound like a fan fiction thing? Well, that may have been like the fanboy thing, what the fanboy might want. But what the film buff in you, if you're a fan of Star Wars, you're obviously a film buff in some capacity, might want is not that extremely over-the-top, arguably cliche way the story will go forward. He projects an avatar of himself through the Force. And you might think, what the fuck? That's crazy. That's never been done before. But that's kind of the point of this movie. Pushing Star Wars in directions that it hasn't gone in since The Empire Strikes Back. It's just, the more I really think about this movie, the more layers I peel back, the more I love the layers I'm peeling back for this movie. It's like Luke sacrifices himself nobly. Again, it's all about the samurai analogy. The fact that the Jedi are samurai, you know? And when Luke comes out and Kylo Ren's like, fire everything! Everything we can! And then they're shooting at Luke, and then Luke's like, just dusting that shit off like, come at me. Hey, come down here. And I love the bit where it's like, you've come to save me? And Luke's like, no. Just has this look of, I'm here to kick your ass. And the lightsaber duel, I don't see the sabers clash. It's just, it's so beautifully done, you know? Just the camera work, the wide shots, the Luke dodging the lightsaber blade in slow-mo. It's just, it's so fucking beautiful. And it's like Luke doesn't even throw a single hit, and you see just the two sides, really, of the Skywalker bloodline coming out. The rash impulsiveness of Anakin, right? And maybe parts of Vader. And yet the calm stillness of maybe Padme. The calm, the reserved, the way to think things through. Passive at peace. The Jedi way versus the way of the dark side. And then the way the movie ends or sends off Luke Skywalker's character after performing this heroic act just to perform one last time of being the Jedi, saving the rebellion and sacrificing himself, becoming one with the Force. Luke once asked, how will I know the good side from the bad in The Empire Strikes Back? Yoda replied, you will know when you are at peace. Passive. A Jedi uses the Force for knowledge and defense, never for attack. That is exactly what that fight was a personification of. It was the living personification of Yoda's words from Empire Strikes Back. Now you might say, Darth Bridle, you're looking at this too deep. You're looking way too deep, but this movie has challenged me. It makes me want to peel back the layers of this film. I just want to go, okay, Ryan, okay, Mr. Johnson, let me explore and dive into this work of art. You want me to, as an audience member, to be challenged. Well, I will accept this challenge and try to analyze this fucker. And of course, how can I not forget this crowd-pleasing moment when Rey goes to the First Order, confronts Snoke, and the turmoil in Kylo Ren is soothing. And of course, everyone complained, Rey's just a Mary Sue. Not against Snoke! Snoke is just playing with her like a marionette puppet. Like, bitch! You ain't got shit on me. Kylo Ren is mine. There is nothing you can do to redeem him. This is my terrible Snoke impression, so I'll just stick to Palpatine. Yes, Rey. You've got such spunk and defiance, but you will fail to save Kylo Ren from my grasp. He is mine, an agent to the dark side of the Force. It was I who made your visions connect. It was I who connected you both, so that you would fall into my trap. The fact that Snoke did that just shows you how much of a strong motherfucker he is with the Force. And again, I love it. Rey even says it to him, just like Luke before her. Your overconfidence will be your weakness. Ben Solo and I will end you. And she's right, to some extent. Actually, she's exactly right. Snoke closes his eyes and says, yes. He ignites the saber at his true enemy. Turns Anakin's lightsaber, ignites that fucker, goes right through Snoke, cutting that motherfucker in half. Like, that was just a moment that made my theater, the first time I saw it, applaud. And then you see Kylo Ren and Rey just back to back fighting these Royal Guard motherfuckers all skilled and shit. And this teamwork, it's like, damn! It's like these motherfuckers are kicking ass. The lightsaber fight after they kill Snoke is probably the best. One of the best in the entire franchise. I mean, look, I'm going to keep it real. There's just so much in this movie that's just perfect, to be honest. It's really hard for me to wrap my mind around people hating this movie or disliking it. Now, maybe people legitimately just didn't like the idea of Star Wars breaking the formula or breaking the norm. But, kind of had to. There comes a time where you got to break away from this shit. And you got to try something different. Now, yes, Rogue One was a little different, but this movie was super different. Honestly, seeing it twice, it makes you really want to just own the fucking 4K Blu-ray so I can just, like, go frame by frame with this motherfucker and really try to piece together and maybe listen to the damn commentary and be like, what the hell is Rian Johnson trying to do with me as an audience member? So I've rambled for like 30-something minutes about... Okay, I'm just going to continue more with this fucking fight scene. It's just, there's so much awesome in this scene. I'm so happy that I was able to watch it the second time because I was able to watch it way better even though it wasn't 3D. And I'm a bit nearsighted, so it's and I'm a bit nearsighted, so 3D movies suck to watch. But I've given you my thoughts on The Last Jedi. I gave you my rating. I've told you why I love it. If you disagree, please explain why. If you disagree with all my points, go through point for point. I'll be happy to debate this with my friends in our Nerd Pack podcast. I will have some meditation sessions to calm myself down. Just to my friends, when we do this, don't yell, don't scream. Just discuss it like gentlemen. And that's all I gotta say. Instead of my usual outro, I'm gonna change it up, and I think it's appropriate. May the Force be with you, and live long and prosper, and have a nice day.